Hi, I'm Race Martin, and this is my LAMP-Lite project. The overview is that the students will be learning about the pop art era through Roy Lichtenstein, his artworks, and major events that have affected his art. The students will be doing a project that is in direct relation to Roy Lichtenstein. They will learn about the elements of pop art and the key definitions needed to understand this era. Now, my essential question is that students will be able to recognize pop art among various artists. What I will be focusing on is a lesson because a whole unit would be so many various artists, and essentially this lesson is like a unit. These are my state standards. I have 5 of them. Most of them do come from the creating standard area, and they are apply methods to overcome creative blocks, demonstrate persistence in developing skills with various materials, methods, and approaches in creating designs, in creating works of art or design, reflect on and explain important information about personal artwork in an artist statement or another format. Then the last 2 I have to do with the responding section, and those would be explain how the method of display, the location, and the experience of an artwork influence how it is perceived and valued, and then interpret art by analyzing art making approaches, the characteristics of form and structure, relevant contextual information, subject matter, and use of media to identify ideas and mood conveyed. For my students' learning objectives, I have 7, and they are students will listen to a lecture given about Liechtenstein. Students will write answers given to them in relation to the Liechtenstein lecture. Students will match vocabulary words to their definitions during a short quiz. Students will cut out an onomatopoeia in various shapes using construction paper from a provided list. Students will draw various sized Venn dots using markers. Students will glue the onomatopoeia and the Venn dots to a background sheet. Students will explain their reasoning behind their choices in creating their collage. So for the lesson layout, the first day, the students will listen to a lecture about pop art and Liechtenstein's background. And then the second day, there will be a vocabulary quiz, and then I will start explaining the project. And then the third day, we will begin their sample project. Now, in an art class, it is hard to dictate when everyone will be finished. So there are dates that overlap, as you can see. Day 3 and 4 is them picking out and finding an onomatopoeia in a triadic color scheme. 4 and 6 are drawing and cutting out shapes and an onomatopoeia. Day 5 and 7 is adding Venn dots to an onomatopoeia in at least one shape. Day 8 and 9 is arranging cutout items on background sheet and adding final touches. Day 9 through 10 is double checking the layout and then gluing it all together. And then on day 10 and 11, the final days, students will be finishing up their gluing and they will finish writing or start their artist statement. So for the assignments, we will have, for assignments, class discussions on lectures will mostly be taking place. That will happen either after my lecture, and I will just gather all the students up together and we will discuss our favorite pieces of work, our least favorite, what very much defines Liechtenstein as an artist, what of his works go best with the pop art, or it could even be something simple as a student raising their hand and asking a question. And then the whole class interrupts and we have a whole discussion, or I simply answer their question, or I let them comment on what they wanted. The next assignment is written assignments on my LMS, which is just trying to get the students to think about their artist statement without telling them they're thinking about the artist statement. So I have 2 questions on there, and it would be like the reasoning behind picking their onomatopoeia. Where did they find it? Why did they choose that one? Did it pop out a certain way? Did they like the way it sounded? Did they like the way it looked on the paper? Was it just like anything? And then the second one is why did they pick their triadic color scheme? Did it relate to their feelings that day? Do they actually really love those colors? Did they just pick them to pick? And why did you feel you need to do that? Why did you feel you needed to just pick to pick? It just has them thinking about these artist statement questions without having them know that they've begun thinking in this way. As for their assessments, in an art class, there is not very much stereotypical tests or quizzes. The most test or quiz you'll get is a vocabulary quiz, or at the end of a whole unit, there might be a couple questions on matching, like this artist, this, do these key terms go with this era movement? But other than that, there aren't that many quizzes, none of those traditional assessments. Most of the assessments come from projects. So the students will be doing a sample project and their main project, which is the onomatopoeia project. For their vocabulary quiz, it is only 5 points, and it is short answer and multiple choice. And this quiz is located on the MLS. They will go and click on the little section. They will go on the Google form, and then they will just fill it in as they go. Once this is submitted, I have to manually go in and grade it, because I do not know for the short answer question exactly how every student's going to word something one way. I do have a long list of choices, but I still go in and manually look at it, because they may have said the keywords that I want them to, just in a different format than what I have written. Now, the sample project. So in most art classes, a sample project happens because it lets the students in on what the project is, but mostly some of the difficult parts before having to go head first right into the deep end and no turning back. So for their sample project, they will have 3 separate sheets of paper, and they will be doing Venn dots of large, medium, and small. Their pieces of paper will be about the size of a standard envelope, maybe even a half of that size. And they will take their marker and they will do a large Venn dots all over the page until it is mostly filled up, and I approve them to go to the next one. They'll go on their next sheet of paper and do medium dots, same thing. And then they'll go to their final sheet of paper and they'll do very teeny tiny small Venn dots all over the place. And this is where my demo would take place. I would show them, do not press very hard with their marker or anything, because then it would just ruin the ink, ruin the paper, so on and so forth. This is only 10 points, but it's still points on the board for them for this unit. Now, their main project is their onomatopoeia project. They will be taking a triadic color scheme and they will be using that. Those are the sole 3 colors they will be using for this entire project, unless it is their background sheet, which can either be white, black, or any one of their 3 colors. They will also have to do Venn dots of various sizes, which is why we practice this in the sample project. They will pick an onomatopoeia that they will put front and center, and I do have a rubric that I did give for them. This is 25 points. So it is a very big chunk of their grade for this unit. As for the learning motivations, I decided to go with cognitive learning a theory, because the students will reflect on what they have done and think about their thought process through the artist statement that they will have to fill out in association with their final project. It just has them going back and looking at, why did I do this? Oh, I did this because, well, I could have changed this and I could have done this instead, but I very much like this, and maybe I'll carry it on in my next project. For their motivation theories, I picked extrinsic award, and hopefully we get to intrinsic purpose. The extrinsic award would be get a good grade, you do good, your reward is getting a decent grade on this overall project. Now, I do hope that they get the intrinsic purpose. They find motivation to keep on doing this because they learn new things about an era they might like. They might like Roy Lichtenstein. They're doing it for themselves and to feel better instead of doing it to get something, essentially. Now, for my MLS, I used Google Classroom, as you can see. I use this because I am very much used to it already. It's very simple, comes easy to me. I can work it very well. When I made this, I made it only in probably a couple minutes, where I know if I used Canvas or any other website, it would take me hours to learn. Also, for an art project, mostly everything happens in the classroom. There's not much online work unless they are looking up references. But other than that, mostly everything I would have in my classroom on the board, I would be showing on a projector, but they might all, if I do have a PowerPoint slide, they would have access to that as well. But there really isn't much that would go on my MLS. For my data dashboard, I put all of the assignments, major assignments that the students would be doing. They have their vocabulary quiz, which can be found on my Google Classroom. It's in a Google form. It is for points. As I put some data in there that I calculated, I have the highest point would be a 5, and then a 4.3, and then a 1. When it comes to our discussions, those would happen in class and they would not be scored. It's more of a, you participate, but that really doesn't go towards your grade because I don't need to check for attendance because they have to be in school and that wouldn't go towards their grade like it does here in college. Their sample project is completed in class, but they would submit it on Google Classroom. They would just take a picture of it, and then that would also be for points. Their artist statement, they would write in Google Classroom. They have their prompts up there. I tell them how long I would like it. I give them some questions to answer, and that I would like it in 12 times New Roman, double spaced. And then that is also for points. And their big project, the onomatopoeia project, happens in class, takes place solely in class, but they will submit pictures on Google Classroom, and that is also for points. And if you looked at the data view, I did statistically what I believe would happen in a class of 20 students, and then these would be the grades. For my vocabulary quiz, I had 3 people take it, and as you can see right over here that you get the average, the median, and the range of points. And then it gives you a little graph. It tells me the most missed question, which is what is pop art not known for? And then it tells me the students that have taken it, and I can release their scores, and it's a score out of 5. For my reflections, there are some things that I would like to do differently. I would like to incorporate more learner differences into it. I could have more hands-on things or hands-off, and then I could have more written out aspects if I have a child that is hard of hearing, or I could be louder or have a child closer to me or have speakers. If one has visual impairments, then they are able to hear better and I can explain everything more in depth. Or if I have a child that has special education issues, I would have to change my project around a little bit so that it's more suitable for them. I think I'd also develop more rubrics, especially for the sample project, to make sure the students know exactly what I am looking for and how many points each section is. And then at the same time, it is an art class. Most students do not want to sit and listen to a lecture because that is what most of their classes are these days. So I think I would cut back on my lecture time. Maybe I would talk less about pop art and less about Liechtenstein and just start letting them go into their project and have more of my lecture time being explaining their projects. I feel like they'd be more into me explaining what I am looking for them and what I want. But yeah, that's all I have. And thank you so much. I said end the meeting.